There we go. Hi, Anka.
Ta-ta!
How are
Good
you?
morning. Good morning. Lovely to have you back. And today we have an interesting topic because it's always fascinating how the topics kind of go across the different areas. And it's about pattern spotting, how one story, one problem we run into usually shows up in more than one area of life. Have you got an example for that?
Yeah, well, it's so true that, and it's such a great insight that sometimes people think that our lives are sort of compartmentalized. I only struggle at work, and I don't struggle in my personal relationships. But actually, kind of across the board, we often feel frustrated and that we're not heard. And you
Mm.
hear children complain their parents don't hear them, parents complain their children don't hear them, colleagues complain, other colleagues don't hear them. And this comes actually from a very young place where we possibly didn't always feel heard. And we brought that frustration and that pain, it really is a pain when you feel that you're not heard, into our adult lives. And it might be highlighted with certain people. So it might look like it's just at work with that boss or that colleague. But very often, when we look and see, well, where else does that happen? We do see patterns across the board. And then we can start saying, well, what's my part in this? How am I contributing to that?
And I think when we recognize the pattern, we see the innocence in all of it, right? It's not even, well, okay, well, if something, I mean, I've always said, like, I don't know where the quote comes from. It isn't mine, but I wish it was basically. And it's like, we don't have business problems. We have personal issues that show up in our business, right?
Beautiful.
And I've seen it. Well, like literally, I'm an example. I've always been, Mrs. Good Girl, saying yes to everything, don't know how to say no. My mum used to say, "You do nice," when I was like 10 or younger, right? It played out in all relationships, and it played out at work. It wasn't really that much of a problem because for me, because this job description that kind of protect you from it.
Right,
But boy, when I started my own business, it's really the only real challenge I had was that, right?
right.
Finding that way of setting those boundaries and saying no when I was already maxed out instead of saying yes to kind of please everyone. And it literally I could see how, oh yeah, actually, it's not just here. And the example that really sparked it, oh, this is a topic for today, was Facebook brought up a memory from a post from 3 years ago where I'd spoken to some guy in a local bar here. And he came in, he was a little like whatever, and he talks about that things with his wife weren't going well, right? Because he felt taken advantage of, she wasn't valuing what he was doing, he felt a little bit like a rubbish tip. She was using him as a rubbish tip sort of thing to dump all the shit on him. And so, and he'd even like, oh, I didn't even take the mobile phone, so she couldn't locate me. So she was like, things weren't going well. And a while later, we talk about his work, and he's a policeman, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I really like work. And within a minute, he goes, yeah, but it's exhausting, because see, I'm the one who stays calm under pressure. So everybody dumps their difficult cases onto me. And it's a little bit like, I feel a little bit like a rubbish tip. Everybody dumps their shit on me, right? And he couldn't see it.
Right.
Like for him, it was like, okay, I've got some problems at work, I've got some problems at home. But when you look at it from the outside, well, sweetheart, it's the same problem, right?
Right.
And I think the moment you recognize there's no need to change your job. There's no need to divorce your wife, right? And I think that's the liberating part in it all.
Right, right. I love that. That very often we feel, but I'm so successful in this particular area, but I'm struggling in this area. And that very beautiful quality he had of letting people share their problems with him, he possibly didn't have the boundary with his wife to say, okay, honey, I want to hear you about your hard day.
Yeah.
and define for himself what his boundary was. But I don't want it to necessarily be about me, and what I'm doing wrong. Tell me about what was going on in your day and what was hard. And probably at work, they weren't pointing a finger at him, possibly like his wife. Another example I wanted to share. Yeah, sorry, you wanted to respond?
No, you go.
Another example I wanted to share was just this week with just showing how things come from a past life, a past time into our present. I have a client whose mother would always tell her, and these are the two words, disgusting and despicable. And after a very stressful, she bore her husband's illness for many, many years, very close to her husband who just passed away. A very stressful time. She went into the bank and she got so angry with the teller, she threw everything, almost like in the movies, off her desk. And she had a complete hissy fit. And when she left the bank, and she came back and she apologized. And she didn't make an excuse why she did it. She just said there was no place for me to behave as I did. And I said to her, that was so beautiful. Firstly, it never came with an excuse. And secondly, it gave her the opportunity to hold herself kindly and compassionately in the face of her human flaws. She doesn't have to behave. None of us has to behave perfectly, but we can think of a little bit more respectful behavior to ourselves, because she says about herself, she's despicable and disgusting. Her mother's voice is her voice. And then she brings that out into the world and behaves in a disgusting, despicable way towards others. And this was the first time she gave pause. She said, that was not a good thing that I did. I was able to just apologize. And I thought that was so beautiful, so wonderful.
Yeah, that's so true. And there's always two sides to everything, right? And I think what popped to mind when we were with this example and these examples was that, you know how we also, like, once we have that story in our mind, it's like the yellow car syndrome. When you go out and you think of buying a yellow car, all of a sudden it's all you see. I think our good old rad, what is it called? What is it called? The rad, where'd you go? For God's sake, I'll find it. The activating system, basically the filter. The thing that basically helps us filter out what we perceive.
Right, we focus in on one
because
thing.
If you think nobody listens to me, and when I'm thinking of the guy who was like, oh, everybody treats me like a rubbish tip, like, what if that wasn't even true? What if you just couldn't see all the things that you dump onto her, or that other people at work will take off your plate because you're so in your story that, like when we kind of think of, oh, this person never listens to me, you'll find a million examples to prove it. Like you see what you look for, kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that is sort of makes those stories like a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. Because you don't even see.
Right.
Or you won't take notice and recognize the moments where that thing is true. So you're like to recognize how distorted our perspective actually is. I think it's quite liberating.
Yeah. And I like that question. What is true about this feeling of I'm a garbage dump?
Yeah.
And what is my part in creating that? And also seeing it, I can either see I'm a garbage dump, or I can see, wow, it's really nice that people feel safe and want to come and share with me. So what I'd like to say as my last bit is there's always an ability to reframe.
Yes.
Am I a garbage dump, or do I offer a sense of safety and space for people to share? What would you like to offer as a last thought?
It's called reticular activating system. The filter thing. Yeah, no, it's I think every time there is something that keeps coming up that's annoying, I think it's a signal. Use it as a signal to think again.
Beautiful. What's the lesson I need to learn? Because this really triggers me each time. Yeah. I love that.
Where else does that show up?
Right. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.